Hello everyone. Like I promised, Erik and I are back. I promised that we would come back and bring you more news updates. But since our last segment, so much has happened, I'm not even sure where we should begin or what the topic should be. But it's feeling like it will be Iran again because of what happened last night.
The question is whether whistleblowers and their actions make the world a safer place or not. Or to rephrase the question, would the absence of whistleblowers make the world a more harmful place? When information is concealed, we do not know about it. The only way we can know whether information is legitimately kept secret is when it is revealed. All systems of censorship have that problem encoded within them. And because of that original sin of censorship, they all must be held to outside account. The way that has been traditionally done is by courageous individuals who are privy to information that they believe the public is interested in, squirreling it out, often at very substantial personal risk to the public. And the public then, if the media is an honest conduit, the public then decides whether to support those actions or not.
Erik, welcome back.
Hello, Jennylyn.
So we are back with another news update, and I'm trying to keep it to 30 minutes because people have always said that the videos are too long. But the amount of things that are happening, well, we're going to try our magic to cover as many of the hot topics as we can in 30 minutes. So if you are someone who's paying attention, you will know that we bombed Iran last night. Erik, I'm going to hand it over to you to tell us your take on that move.
So I have been on the international news all morning. So I've gotten a chance to feel the temperature gauge of several countries around Iran. So one thing that we forget when we look at, this country is the amount of negative influence that they have in that region. What this does, the way Iran does it, and the way that they fund the Houthis, Hezbollah, and I mean Hamas is kind of tamed now, but it affects the travel of goods all over the world. When Iran wants to mess with people, they'll screw up, the trade routes. And it creates a lot of disruption in that region. As far as their government goes, I was just watching a young lady, and her family and her had escaped Iran, and she was talking about just in the last 2 months, the regime has killed 47,000 protesters. That's a lot of people. That's a humongous genocide. So if a lot of the people on the left and some on the right are going to disagree with this conflict, I understand their concerns with it. However, when we look at the total spectrum of things, 47,000 dead people at the hand of your government in the last 2 months. Why is the world not crying out for that? They're not. And It's the same thing when China mutilated the Uyghurs. Nobody cried out for that. But Ukraine gets invaded by Russia, and all of a sudden everybody wants to cry. So I think that the atrocities that are happening in Iran are way worse. They're killing their own people because they have an opinion. So I don't like that. And also when we look at how women are depicted there and portrayed there and forced into, we fought, women in this country, in the United States, fought long and hard for their rights when they didn't have any for a long time. And we've come a long way. Now we have women in power. Women run corporations. Women can run for president. So the Iranian women don't have that opportunity. The Iranian women have to be a slave to their husband or their man or whatever. When is enough to liberate women? When do all these things happen? When does somebody stand up to Iran? Part of the reason why we're in this situation is because of the Clinton administration was shipping pallets full of money and gold to Iran. Then you had the Obama administration did the same thing. I'm sure Bush did the same thing. We've been enabling this country. And that's why it is our problem. It's our mess. We created this mess. And now we gotta clean it up because people are getting killed all over the world. You look at there's a lot of people don't know this, but Afghanistan and Pakistan are about to go to war. And it's over Iran funding the Taliban. So Pakistan has been enduring terrorist attacks for the last 3 weeks. Where's the world's outcry on that? It's not there. And so these stories get untold. And I'm lucky because I participate in the media in Pakistan. So I get the information firsthand. And the amount of damage that Iran does on a daily basis, the amount of deaths that this country is responsible for is astronomical when you add it all up. These guys are killing people all over the world.
So, Eric, I'm going to interject here for a minute because all these ideas are flying in my head and I'm losing them as you go because another one is popping up. But I really feel like I need to say this. I know that you are connected to people in Pakistan, as am I, but I'm also connected to people in Iran. And here is the problem with the whole situation. I do this with you because I promise the best I can to bring truth to people. That is really challenging because what I hear everyone saying they believe to be their truth. But is that the truth? What we are hearing, we're getting from different sources. And for different sources, the truth is the truth based on what they know. But if you know one side and you don't know the other side, sometimes that affects the truth. If the truth is coming from the source that is a different one from the one you are living in, where you are experiencing where what is taking place is happening. And here's the problem with the whole world, why it's really difficult to know what truth is. And at the end of the day, some people might argue, well, why does it matter to know the truth? Well, for me, it matters because I cannot make an informed decision on lies. And you also mentioned earlier about cleaning up, something we started in Pakistan. I mean, in Iran or wherever we started it, that we should clean it up. But why are we so busy cleaning up messes in other countries when we are living in the most horrible mess here now? Every year, the cost of living is going up. More and more privileges that we work and pay into are being taken away from us because it is being sent out to all these other countries that we are supposedly responsible for cleaning up the mess. Well, as far as I was raised and taught, charity begins at home. When we are clean and well provided for here, maybe then we can think about cleaning other people's messes. And that is just my personal opinion. But every year, throughout my lifetime here, and this is why I don't believe in the sides, the blue and the red. To me, the side of humanity is what matters. Because when you get down to the structure of the blue and the red, and you get beyond it, you realize that these are puppets playing a part on a world stage to accomplish the agendas of those behind it. And Erik, that's where my passion lies. Year after year after year, we change. This one promises this, that one promises that. People put them in based on those promises, but then they get there and they rarely deliver the promises. And if I may say so, it is my personal opinion that they want to, but some of them just can't because they know going in, when they get there, there's an agenda waiting that they need to fulfill. And so I had to say this because as an American, I am passionate that we are going from one war to the next while humanity in the United States of America, a large percent, are struggling to survive.
I mean, you're right. However, we have a huge problem amongst our international community. The United Nations Security Council is completely worthless. The International Criminal Court is completely worthless. So are we supposed to just turn around and go home and allow more innocent Iranian people to die? Because that's what will happen, because nobody's going to come to bat for them.
So let me ask you a question. If your house is in disarray and your children are all fighting against each other, but the neighbor's kids are having a big brawl that somehow you feel you played a part in, which one would you prioritize?
I'm going to go where the most suffering's at, which is not us.
But how do you know that? There's so much suffering here that a lot of the journalists are oblivious to. Do you know how many people are dying, Erik, because they can't get medical care? I know someone this week who died because they couldn't get medical care. And that is really infuriating because this family has been paying into the system. I don't understand how people don't see this.
I mean, you have a point. However, we're looking at 47,000 dead people in 2 months at the hands of the government. So I'm gonna side with that. We look past genocide too much in this world.
But it's happening on both sides. Which side are you referring to? Genocide on which side?
In the country of Iran.
I agree with you, the genocide has to stop. But you know what? There's so many countries right now with genocide taking place. But somehow we only fixate on some. And we only want to fix some. But if you go and do the homework, there's a lot of it don't ever get reported on the news. There are countries in Africa. There is so many, I mean, go look. And somehow, and this is where I believe there's another agenda apart from the ones that is being talked about. Because if we want to end genocide, there were countries that are having this happening way before now, and nothing is done about it. Do you disagree?
No, I don't disagree. However, when we look at what this administration has tried to do with, I think we're up to eight wars that has been stopped. That's a feat in itself without having to use any resources. And some of those countries were genocidal.
Which wars have been stopped in this administration? Because I'm oblivious to a lot of them. Do you mind?
Yeah, so Pakistan and India were about to nuke each other. Trump jumped in just at the nick of time to peace talk that. You have Azerbaijan and Armenia, who have been mortal enemies for a long time, and there was the genocide there. That finally, after decades and decades of war, they're at least at a standstill where they're not bombing each other anymore. You have where we stepped in with the Israel Gaza situation. We got all the hostages back. Hamas started cooperating, and that war basically stopped. Which I don't know if you really want to call it a war. It's more of a cleaning out the rats kind of situation. And then you have was Congo and Rwanda, I think. It was two African. I think it was Congo and Rwanda.
Yeah, their Congo was yes. I'm aware of that one.
Yeah. So those are just the ones off the top of my head. There's a couple more in there that I don't remember, but some of those countries have been at war with each other for decades. And now we're seeing more peaceful avenues there, and he's been able to achieve that through the tariffs. Like, hey, we're not going to do business with you if you guys are going to go to war with each other, and it's effective. It's an effective measure without really having to spend any money. Iran's a little bit different. They terrorized the Middle East. The first thing they did after we attacked them was they shot off missiles at all of their neighbors.
Right.
What kind of people do that? Kuwait has stayed neutral in every conflict since the Persian Gulf War. Why shoot off missiles at them? Same thing with Bahrain and the Saudis. The Saudis have not offered the United States any sanctuary to start this conflict, but yet Iran shot missiles off at them. So this is what they think of their neighbors. So I think they think that the Ayatollah thinks he's bigger than God, and I think that at some point in his life, he has come to the conclusion that no one's better than him. And I think it's time that the Iranian people get their country back. I think what we're going to see is this isn't going to be a big, long, drawn-out war. This is going to be about a 4-week operation. Once we we cripple the country enough, the people are going to rise up and take their country back.
So you are admitting that we are going to be going to like the initial stages of a war, but it may not blossom into a full-blown war, is what you're saying.
So the president has the legal ability, and this is what they don't tell you on stupid social media. The president does have the legal ability to attack anyone he wants to. So, however, it only lasts for a certain amount of time, and then it becomes a congressional vote. So Trump is acting within his legal guidelines right now. Now, when that time frame ends, he's going to have to make a decision. Do I continue on with this and deal with the repercussions of Congress, or do I go to Congress and ask for their vote and approval? So as of right now, we are not in a legally declared war. This is a conflict that the president is within his legal right as of right now. So we'll see what happens. I think that President Trump doesn't want a big drawn-out war. Afghanistan was a huge failure. We went there to do nothing. We basically went there to tie. It's like Vietnam. Vietnam ended up being a failure. And I don't think President Trump is going to want to have a failure. He's going to want to go disable as many targets as he can in a short amount of time, and then he's going to bring the troops back home. And then Congress isn't going to be able to do anything, which they weren't. They're just our Congress is completely worthless anyway, which is why everybody's like, "Well, why didn't Trump?" Well, because you guys can't agree on anything. Nothing gets done in Congress, so we'll just sit around and
Well,
let
I
people get
believe at a
massacred.
congressional level, they're designed to play into the division of the left and the right. So if the one president is in the trying to get the votes, he gets them vetoed by the side that is supposed to be
Yeah,
opposing him. And
yeah.
this is why I say it's a world stage. It's. I just hope people wake up and see it for what it is, because it's one thing for them to do their thing, but it's another thing to have half the country and a large percentage of the world divided by this stupid game. So, Erik, to your point, it's interesting because I did not vote for Trump and I will never vote for any of them. But it's interesting that he is getting some things accomplished based on what you're saying.
Yeah, so there are accomplishments getting done, and it's like what you said with the divide. Anything good that he does, his own side has to prop it up because the other side will never acknowledge that he did anything good. Um, it's just there's a lot of hypocrisy that goes on in Washington. Uh, you're looking at this massive fraud thing, just to add something else, this massive fraud thing going on in Minnesota. We're looking at billions of stolen taxpayer dollars. And you have, uh, politicians going to bat for the people who committed fraud against the American taxpayer. Like, how does that make any sense? And it'd be the same thing as if it happened here in Georgia, where I'm at. If I find out our Republican Governor Kemp has been stealing our taxpayer money and funneling it to whoever, there's going to be a problem, and I'm going to make a podcast and everything about it every day until he goes to jail. So
Good
it's like,
luck. Good luck with that. On that note, Erik, I'm going to interrupt you again because we're down to 10 minutes and I really want to talk about this before we wrap. I wanted to speak about the missing woman, but we're not going to have time because this for me takes priority. There are those who are saying the former Prince Andrew has been arrested, right? And the
right.
question is, if Britain is holding him accountable, why hasn't anybody from the United States on that list been arrested? A lot of people are asking this question, and on behalf of those who have the question, I'm tabling it to see what answers you have, if any.
So this is a multi-layered answer because we've had a regime change happen in the middle of this. So we had the Biden administration, and Merrick Garland was the attorney general at the time. He had those files for 4 years and did nothing with them. Absolutely nothing. I'm not even sure they even looked at them. Um, so it's the investigation is 4 years behind. And then Pam Bondi, when you look at what they released millions and millions of documents. It's going to take a lot of forensic auditing for one attorney general's office to go through all of that information and to look at. It's not easy to just look at a piece of paper and go, was a crime committed here?
So has Britain has Britain gone through all of them? Because they're clearly
Well,
making
no,
arrests.
because Britain's only hyper focusing on one thing. They basically have all the documents just on their people, which is a very small portion of the information that we have. Most of ours are well documented, that there's a lot to go through. When you and they're not looking at Prince Andrew on the Epstein trafficking part of it. They're looking at it on the more of an espionage kind of thing, where he was given confidential information to
Got it.
Jeffrey Epstein for whatever reason.
Got it.
They can move very quickly on a case like that because it's treasonous to the crown. And if they have if they have the emails where we've specifically seen where Prince Andrew did this and gave it to Jeffrey Epstein, who never had any kind of clearance in the country, that's going to create a humongous problem, and it's going to be easy for them to prosecute. The problem Here's what killed this whole thing in the United States. When you look at it from a law enforcement spectrum and from a lawyer spectrum, these cases are done. We're not going to see prosecutions because they've compromised the integrity of the case by releasing the documents.
Have
Because
you
now,
heard? I'm sorry, have you heard that Pam Bondi was on that list and that her name was redacted? I read that. I'm not
uh,
sure about
I
the
mean, I can't.
source, so I'm asking you.
So I mean, we hear all kinds of stuff. If if she was on the list, then somebody inside of Trump's administration knows about it, or somebody inside of somewhere knows about it. So there's so much misinformation that's going on out there
The
that,
only reason
especially
I'm
with
bringing
the
it up, and I don't mean to cut you off, but I just want to make this point because it's related, then that would explain why the list was missing for such a long time. Apparently, there was a lot of redactions necessary before its release. Do you think that's a possibility?
no, just
Okay,
because of the behavior of see the Biden administration could have done the same thing. They could have went
right,
through and redacted everything they didn't like and left all Trump's people listed and released it. They could have done that. They had 4 years to do it, and they
right.
didn't do it. So I don't get excited about the Epstein files right now. Especially they're trying to bring this like 13-year-old this girl who was 13 that says Trump did whatever, but then they're not telling the rest of the story to where they interviewed her over and over and over again, and then they deemed her not credible. And that was years ago when that interview happened. So there's a lot of when you look at an investigation and you get a lot of information in, you have to really look at every piece of information, and then you have to go through the process of determining whether or not that piece of information was credible or not credible. Now, even the not credible information, which there's probably a million pages of non-credible information that was released, that is what most of these people are jumping off the bandwagon on. They're throwing it all out there, going Trump did this, or Bill Clinton did this, but even they most of these people don't understand how the legal system works. But now that we've released the Epstein files, they've highly compromised the integrity of the case. It's going to be very hard to prosecute any if Bill Clinton gets indicted and they bring him in. The first thing I'm going to do is move this case outside of the United States because the jury pool is now corrupt, and Bill Clinton will never get his fair share. Will never get his due process because the whole country knows every detail of everything that's been released. So we've right off the bat violated anybody who gets indicted's constitutional rights to due process. So that's a huge problem.
Well, I think their passion is coming. Everybody refers to it as the Epstein list, the Epstein list. But the passion I hear, and I spend hours watching people who've read the list and watching their reaction, and some people are incensed because of what we know were done to children. Children were hunted, and that's mild compared to what happened after they were hunted. And we know this to be a fact. It happened. And I think this is where people's anger is coming from. Their focus is on not so much who went to the island, who cares who went to the island, is what happened on the island.
Yeah, I mean,
Especially to children. And for as long as I've lived in America, when I was younger, we used to really believe the missing children were abducted by aliens. I used to really think that because how could the children just disappear? And now we know where a lot of these missing children, where they ended up and what was done to them. And people are very angry about this. And so it's not like we want to see people punished, but you mean there's going to be no accountability for what was done to the children who were abducted and then had that done to them? And I don't want to say it. I can't watch it in its entirety. I've watched the beginning of a few of them and I had to switch it off.
Yeah, the only bad thing is they never should have released the files. They should have waited until after each, because they could have broke this down in a release once they indict someone. Then they can let the court system play out, then release all the information. They should have did it case by case basis instead of just saying, "Here you go, open the floodgates, there it is." Because now they've screwed up every case that they could have possibly have done. And I think that's why Pam Bondi didn't want to release them, and why Trump didn't want them released, because now there's not going to be any charges. We're not going
So
to indict
you're
anybody
saying
off of that.
nobody will be held accountable.
Nope.
They're all just getting away with this.
Yeah, we've violated every defendant's due process. All these people that wanted this stuff released just screwed the whole thing up.
But, Erik, on the other hand, if the people are going to get everything they want, then how come we don't get the other things we want? Something isn't adding up, but I will save that because we're out of time. We're down to a minute and 14 seconds. And I want to give that to you to leave what you want people to know that we didn't cover.
I think when it comes to where we're at right now, that we need to experience, allow our emotional response to pass before we make decisions. Our media and the international media and politicians, they're designed to feed off of our emotional response. So it's always best when you start to feel emotional, remove yourself from the situation, let a couple days go by, revisit the issue, and then make an educated decision rather than an emotional decision.
Great, great advice, Erik. I myself have been trying to encourage people not to get wrapped up in anger because it's not going to fix anything. I really believe it's only going to amplify what is already ugly. I
Yep.
get how people are upset because now they know for certain what was done to innocent children. But the fact that people who perpetrated these horrible behaviors and violated so many are just going to walk free, it's upsetting only because how do we know it's stopping? Clearly, this is who these people are, and which means if they're not held accountable, will they continue to behave like this? Will they continue to traffic and sacrifice the vulnerable that they could get their hands on? I'm going to leave this cliffhanger for the next discussion because that is a serious question that I have. Anything you want to add? And then I'm going to wrap. To that comment that I just made.
Yeah, I mean, the good thing is there's an immense amount of awareness around it now. So for them to, attempt to continue to do these things, they're going to get caught. They're going to get caught. And as far as your comment, what was the comment that you just made? What was your cliffhanger? I had something for that.
If they are not held responsible, what is to stop them from continuing this behavior? And the people's anger around what have been done to children, what has been done to children.
So you can't, for one, if you allow yourself to maintain a certain level of emotion around this, you're just feeding the reptilians.
Right.
Just so you know. So don't feed the reptilians. Or two, you can't. You have. Don't depend. It's not going to be wise to depend on if a certain elected official is suspected in doing something nefarious. You're not going to be able to depend on other elected officials to hold that elected official accountable. It's going to be up to the independents to document as much as they can, spread the awareness, and allow the public opinion to hold them accountable. Because as we've seen with the Epstein list, All these people have been scratching each other's back for 40 years. So it's going to be up to the regular people to hold them accountable and to destroy their reputations, so that way it gets brought to the light.
Erik, thank you so much. Thank you for doing the homework. You dig a lot deeper than I. This is why I like doing these segments with you, because you have the answers I don't for the majority of the questions I have. And I've tried finding answers on my own, but I often question some of the information I come up with, so I like bouncing it off of you. And like I said before, it's really, really difficult to get to the truth unless you're on the ground where the particular situation is happening. You kind of have to depend on what you're getting from other sources. But the one source I never take anything from is the mainstream media, because I know for a fact that that source has an agenda attached to it, and it's one to keep you in ignorance and far away from the truth. And so we will see you next week, whenever Erik can afford me the time, because he is a very in demand international journalist. And therefore, I will take what I get when I can get it, so I can share him with you. And we will be back soon. Thank you for following what we are sharing. Bye.